Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live chat. Today, my guest is a dear friend of mine, a real giant in this modern acoustic guitar scene. It's Mr. Tony Polecastro, and you'll be familiar with Tony's work through his amazing YouTube channel, the Acoustic Life channel, with his weekly program. And of course, his Tony's Acoustic Challenge tuition course. And we'll be talking about all sorts of things to do with the acoustic guitar that we all love right here. Now, I've just seen that Tony is online now, and I'm going to wave to him. Look at that. So we have a request to go live. Let's see what happens. There he is. Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt. I was just so excited that it worked. I was thrilled that it worked.
Me too, man. Believe me. Oh, it's so good to see you, Tony. How are you, man?
Likewise, man. I am doing fantastic. Having a great day so far, and just enjoying. I honestly, I woke up just super excited to do this.
Me too.
I couldn't. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. I told my wife before I left the house today, I said, this is going to be a blast. Last time I talked to Michael, I think I laughed for a good half hour straight. So I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Well, as am I. What was that? One of your famous LaCroix there?
Yeah, it's a new one. This is apple cranberry.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, intriguing is actually a really good word for it.
I'm sure it is. Well, I'm glad that you can hear me loud and clear. I'm trying a new audio approach today.
Nice.
So I'm coming through with a DPA 4060 Lavalier mic. And nice. With any luck, that won't drain the battery too much on my phone. I've also I've just had a thunderstorm start outside. And sometimes my Wi-Fi connection can be a little bit dependent on good weather, but we'll see what happens. This is always a sort of fly by the seat of your pants kind of situation. But
perfect.
We've got what we've got for as long as we've got, and that's kind of the rule for every day, isn't it? So let's make the most of it. Now, we've already got some people joining us, which is fantastic, and great to see so many familiar faces, certainly to me, and new ones as well, who I assume will be coming through from your own. What can I call them? Not your readership, your faithful followers, perhaps.
Yeah, sure, fair. That's fair for sure. My TAC family,
The TAC family, yeah. Absolutely. And the first question that we got through was actually from a member of the TAC family, Crystal G. Now this was a two-parter, and she asked you a part, and she asked me a part. So I'm going to do the bit for you, and you're going to do the bit for me. So, this question is for Tony. On your recent album, Rodent, which is a hell of a good name for an album.
Thank you.
It's a mix of traditional folk with a very ethereal feel to it. And what was your thought process going into the project? And is the outcome a surprise or what you expected? And she goes on to say, great album, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I saw you had sent me the question just 5 minutes prior, and I had to I kind of had to sit down and think about this one. My thought process going into that album really wasn't necessarily to create an album. I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of bits and pieces recorded, things that I thought were, charming to my ear, things that I thought would come across well as songs. They weren't necessarily just bits and pieces. They were fully thought out pieces. I just didn't know how they'd get along together because I never really listened to them, as a full unit.
Right.
So that being the case, I really went into the studio. It was a 3-day endeavor. I went into the studio thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to record all of these pieces. And then I'm going to take a step back and I'm just going to listen to them and see if they get along. And if they get along, great. I'll release an album. And if they don't, then at least I got some things down in their entirety.
3 EPs.
Yeah. So I guess what really was kind of another piece of the thought process that I haven't really talked about all that much. Exclusive. You heard it here
Oh,
first.
wow.
No, no. My the year prior, my grandfather died, and I was really struggling with a lot of emotion surrounding that. I
Mm.
didn't know how to feel. He had dementia for quite some time,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
so I felt like I lost him much earlier than he was physically gone. So I really had
that.
a difficult time kind of sorting through that.
Hmm.
And I think that's where kind of some of that ethereal sound and emotion comes across. But
Right.
I was really thrilled with the final result. I to this day, I mean, I still actually listen to it, which is not common. Usually I'll put out an album and I need a break from it. So once I completed the album, I look back and I have a great sense of pride for that album.
That's good.
It really means a lot to me personally, and I'm thrilled with how it came out. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. To be honest, I mean, I think this is typical of you, but you devote so much time to promoting and just spreading enthusiasm for the acoustic guitar. I'm not entirely sure people appreciate what an incredible player you are.
it's this is funny because we've been talking about this recently here at what we like to call TAC HQ.
Right.
I've just been the the acoustic guitar has brought me so much joy, and it's really been it's honestly been a true lifeline for me.
Hmm.
Um, I really want other people to get in touch with that, and
Right.
I think sometimes I err on the side of helping people get in touch with that
Yeah.
and not and being very careful in my own promotion of my own endeavors, because really, I mean, this might sound selfish, but making that album was really kind of a passion project for me, and whether or not 5 people listened to it or a gazillion, that really wasn't in my mind. It was just more of like, I need to do this right now.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the results speak for themselves. It was a beautiful piece of work. Right. Well, thank you for that. I think it's your turn now.
Yeah. So also the two-parter comes from the same asker,
Yes.
Crystal G,
Mm.
and she says this, and I'm actually, as soon as I read the question, I was thrilled that she asked this, because this is one of the questions I have for you as well.
Oh.
Michael, you have a way of
Mm.
making space an important element in your playing as well as sound.
Mm.
How did you develop that? And as a new player, how can I work towards that?
Okay, two very important questions. This goes back to before I could play guitar. It goes back to a love of languages and of communication. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, music is a language, and it's unique in that it is a language that deals purely in emotion with no information whatsoever. Instrumental music. And as I've learned other languages um, throughout my life, I've felt a real need to be able to express myself with accuracy and with subtlety and nuance, and really sort of hone in on what I'm wanting to say. This sometimes leads to long pauses in what I say. And more often than not, it got worse when I just come back from Greece in 2008, because I'd been pretty much speaking Greek non-stop for 6 years. And at that point, it really got difficult. I was suffering from all sorts of linguistic interference and having to sort of tunnel through a layer of Greek, certainly to reach my Spanish, but also on occasion to get through to English. So this whole thing goes back to this idea of nuanced, accurate communication, of saying exactly what I want to say, and texture for me has been vital. Melody has been vital, and making use of almost implied harmony, and that sounds kind of highfalutin, and I really don't mean it in that way. It's more a case of I never really use more than two or three voices in a chord. I'll have the melody and then I may invert the bass or something like that. But I like to keep things fairly stark. Um, this also comes from the fact that I've been very fortunate and I've had first-hand experience of some sublime guitars, the sort of instruments that change your life and have changed mine. And I've learnt as much from the instruments I've played as I have from teachers and other musicians. And when you play something like a guitar by Michael Greenfield or Linda Manza, Jason Costel, Irvin Samoji, Jeff Traugott, Jim Olson, the huge names, it changes your life and it informs you. And it's almost like I want to hear the guitar sing, and I don't want to get in the way of that. I think Tom Rebecki, the great archtop maker out in Healdsburg, California, said it best. There's a lot of talk about is it the guitar, is it the player, and all this sort of thing. And my God, I don't talk to Tom Emanuel about that. But Tom said your guitar is your dance partner, and I thought, well, isn't that beautiful? Because that's really what's happening. It's a symbiosis. You're moving around one another. And if you're kind of clumsy and standing on her feet, then it's not going to work. But if you're giving it, full fandango and she can't keep up, then, you've got problems there as well.
Yeah. It's an excellent parallel.
I think
it's an
so.
excellent parallel.
Yeah, I found it very poetic the first time he said that. So, yeah, as far as new players and people who want to look at this sort of thing, I must admit that dog squeak. I learnt two very important things from Pierre Bensusan, who I studied with at the very start of the 21st century. I went out to France and stayed with him. The first was critical, objective listening to what I was playing. Because the guitar is a seductive instrument. It's got this haptic sort of response to it. You feel it, rattling against your chest. You get the vibrations through your fingers, and you're like, delicious. And
Yeah.
you enter a sort of almost a theta state of consciousness. It's almost like a trance-like state, and you forget to listen to what you're saying. And once again, this goes back to the idea of fluent communication. So Pierre taught me to listen, and he taught me the value of space. It's a bit of a cliche. Mozart and Debussy have both been quoted as saying the music is the space between the notes. And, that's the sort of Zen-like koan that a lot of music students like to, drop on one another at like 4 a.m. and go,
Yeah.
ooh, wow, I hadn't thought of it like that, man. Oh, my God. Yeah, you could be right there. It's true. But at the same time, for me, I like just hitting one note just right, and then having a guitar that just rises up to meet it like Jaws.
Yeah.
You just play one note, and it's just like.
Yeah.
So, from the point of view of someone who's starting to approach the guitar like that. Critical, objective listening, not too critical, be kind to yourself, because that's important too.
Agreed.
but unless you're really honing in on what's happening and coming out of the instrument, then it's almost like you're talking with your fingers in your ears, and that's not a huge amount of help. So be gentle with yourself, be gentle with your instrument, and my main advice would be to start looking at the way that you attack every note. Because, in the same way that a skilled actor can say the line, I love you, 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
And it'll have nuance and meaning and all this sort of thing. If you can do one note and inject maybe not 1,000 different nuances, but certainly a spectrum of meaning into that. And the key to that is obviously the right hand and your positioning along the string,
Yeah.
the angles with which you attack the note, if you're using a nail return technique, under the string and flicking out, if you're using a rest stroke onto the strings, all this sort of stuff. That's technique. But once you get past that, then you get to the scary bit of fluid communication and developing your own sound. And then you reach the truly terrifying step of sounding like someone that you've never heard before. And then you're like, is this okay?
Yeah, there's no gauge for comparison.
Exactly. It's like, Jimmy Page didn't do this, and Michael Hedges doesn't sound like this, Leo Cook, he would never hold one bent note for like 30 seconds like I
Yeah.
do. It's legitimate, you know? And it's in embracing, and I think this is true for any artist. It's in embracing the things that make you unique and also vulnerable that you find your own voice.
Hmm.
And that's the biggest piece of advice that I could impart to any artist. It doesn't matter what they're doing, sculpture, dance, photography, find what makes you you. Ignore the fact that it makes you feel vulnerable and small and, oh my God, this is really kind of wow, and push it, because that's your strength. That's what you've got.
What a
There you
great
go.
answer. What a great answer. If anybody transcribed that, you can start the Michael Watts biography right now.
No one would believe it. No one would believe it at all. So thank you, Crystal, for owning your sound. Love it. Yeah, absolutely. Own your sound. And you know what? Without getting too soapboxy, but hey, I've started. Um,
It's a long way down. You may as well stay up there.
I'm here now. This is something that I learned when I was studying performance. Own the stage, because it's yours from the moment you walk on to the moment that you walk off. It is absolutely yours. And I've been privileged to play on stages where, Jimi Hendrix has played, or Led Zeppelin have played, or Pentangle. And if you let that get to you, then it's a killer.
Yeah.
If you look over and you think you've just seen Jimmy out the corner of your eye with a white Strat, and you're like, oh no, oh no, he's watching. It's yours for the taking. I mean, a case in point would be I played with the late great John Martin's widow, Beverly Martin, and this was for a tribute to the music of Burt Jansch, who is one of my heroes, just a complete genius.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
and we were playing When the Levee Breaks, and just after us was Robert Plant. So he was standing there in the wings, ready to go, hot to trot, and we had to play When the Levee Breaks with Robert Plant standing next to me. But up until the point where I left the stage, it was mine, and I was not going to give it up. You've got to just plant your flag, mine.
I not to interject on the story, but I feel very similarly. It's a
Mm.
tough mindset to cultivate, and
Oh, isn't it?
I've had a lot of different, join different, ensembles when they've been here in town or whatever, and just sat in with them, and it is very, it's a mindset that takes a lot of practice to cultivate,
Oh, yeah.
because you want to. There's this fine line between paying your respects and being respectful of the artist, but also empowering yourself to really own it, to really
Absolutely.
own it, and do your best to honor said artist, or
Absolutely.
make the music that you think will impact the people listening.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, that was not the perfect gig
Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. Things weren't wrong. We'd been rehearsing for like 6 months on this one song. I'd played on the album version, not the Led Zeppelin or the Memphis Mini, but I played on the album version that Beverly had brought out, and I'd played I think 5 or 6 different guitar parts. So I had to layer those into one electric guitar part. I was on the my Gretsch
Yeah.
White Falcon, and the thing about a Gretsch is they look great, but they're not always particularly reliable.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happened, I hit one chord, and the sixth string popped out as a saddle. Just dunk. So I'm sitting there in front of like 3,000 people in a festival hall in London, like one of the most famous concert halls in the world, basically, and my sixth string is gone. And there's this footage on YouTube, you can hear, because the BBC were filming it as well, as if there wasn't enough, going on. You can hear
Yeah.
me going, dunk, as I put it back in. And then the time comes for my Guitar Hero solo. And I'm like, right, here we go. I'm in drop D. I've got a Vox AC30 dimed.
Yeah.
My trousers are flapping, the adrenaline is running through me, but I'm in control. I hit the Crowther hotcake for an extra boost. I hit the Electro Harmonix Holy Grail reverb for reverb upon reverb, and then I hit the first chord, and the first and second strings pop out. And it's time for my Guitar Hero solo. And you can see me going, oh, this isn't going to go quite as planned. So I've got an enormous white ukulele to all intents and purposes.
Yeah. You've lost 50% of your guitar power. Well, I guess at this
Exactly.
point,
At this point, it's anybody's guess. And also, with the Bigsby, the whole thing's just gone.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand what is asked of me right now. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm here. And I know that I'm in a room of like 3,000 people that would all give their grandmothers to change places with me right now.
Yeah.
So off we go. And I played that solo, and as always, the gods of screaming feedback were on my side. And and that's pretty much what got me through. You've got your screaming feedback, you've got your
Yeah.
Bigsby, job done.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit of reassessing at that point. You're like, okay, so this isn't going to go as planned, and you
Right.
embrace that. And I've seen some extraordinary gig disasters.
Oh.
Not just like not just snapped strings. Everybody snaps strings.
Sure.
I haven't for a while, actually, touch wood. But I certainly did when I was playing electric guitar. They'd go all the time.
Yeah.
Normally in the first chord of the day as well. Clang. The lasers have come on. The
Yeah.
confetti cannons have just fired. I'm like, oh, great. I really should have had my tunematic looked at by my tech.
Yeah.
So that's kind of embarrassing. I've seen there's a legendary English guitarist, Gordon Giltrap, and if you don't know the name, look him up. He was one of the big guys out in the 70s and 80s. I saw him playing a beautiful solo concert, and a lady walked past him on the stage, tripped, and literally fell flat on her face and knocked herself out. It's like, ooh.
Oh. That's just a minor distraction.
A minor distraction. He got through
it. Yeah.
At that point, your humanitarian side has to sort of kick in, and you
For
stop,
sure.
and as he did, he was like, "Are you okay?"
It's funny. It's funny to me because I think when the artist does allow their guard to come down and the humanitarian side does come out, I really do feel like it creates for these memorable moments, almost maybe even more so than just strictly musical moments. I mean, some of my favorite shows, some of my favorite experiences playing have been not even during the show, it's been after a discussion or things like that. It's just interesting that you bring that up, that the humanitarian side comes out. And
it's absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. Let me ask you something, Tony. What's the just off the top of your head, best show you've seen? Like, not from perhaps the music, but like the power of it that stayed with you. I'm going to have a little sip of my coffee.
Yeah, I'm going to actually turn off one of my lights. I feel like a Casper the Ghost here. Let me just walk around. You're going to see some of the studio here.
You see it here first, behind the scenes of Acoustic Life.
I had preset my lights and everything was looking great, and I turned this out. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a ghosty fella. I promise I'm more tan than this.
I was like, wow, Tony's been overdoing the concealer.
Yeah. The most impactful show for me. Wow. You know, this is a really difficult question because I see a ton of shows. I really do. The most impactful one for me. I should have a quick answer, but this is a difficult one.
Well, that's why I sprung it on you out of the blue.
I have to say, the most impactful show for me. Okay, I got it. I have two. I'll share the first one. The first one was I had Sam Beam, also known as Iron and Wine, and Gregory Alan Isaacoff were headlining. It was just a duo. They were not playing together. They were doing both solo sets. It was a very stripped down affair. Two of my favorite songwriters, two of my favorite singers, and this was at the University of, I think it's called the University of Wyoming. It's in Laramie, Wyoming, and small theater. Now they're all flooding to me now. I got other shows I want to talk about. But anyways, what was so beautiful about the show was it was so spontaneous because they were literally taking requests from the crowd, and to see these two artists in an environment like that and see them really just, it wasn't about the show, it wasn't about the production, it wasn't about the lights, the band, the stage setup. It was a stool and a guy sitting there with a guitar just playing songs, forgetting the words in the middle of songs.
Right.
And I just thought that this is not something that you see on a tour. This is something that's really special. This is really they're digging way back into their catalog, trying to remember songs that they recorded on their first album.
Oh,
and
it was precious.
Absolutely. And it was not only significant from the listening perspective, but it was also empowering from the artist standpoint to see these people that you look up to struggle with remembering a song that they wrote so long ago, and just really bearing all. It was stunning. The other one that I'll add was one that I was a part of, and it was equally empowering, not because of the names, not because of the situation. It was because of just taking part of something that was amazing. So back in, I want to say it was my 30th birthday, so this was almost 7 years ago.
You're 37.
I will be 37, August 29th. Yeah.
Oh, everybody take note.
Yeah. We're knocking on the door of 40 here.
Wow. That's long past for me.
This was at a concert hall here in Bozeman at the Emerson Arts and Cultural Center. It seats maybe 2,500 on the bottom, maybe an additional 1,000 in the top, so 3,500 seat venue. And there was just a big forest fire due east of here, and this was at the time that John Mayer had moved to Livingston, which is over where these fires were, and he had proceeded to really kind of rise up to the cause and make some charitable donations and things like that. Well, he put on a show at the Emerson Center. And the band I was in at the time, he actually invited us to open.
Oh wow!
And he played along. He played along with us. This was a duo. It was John Mayer and Zach Brown. And
nice.
At the time, to say this, at the time, I honestly wasn't like an enormous fan. I was way more in the acoustic realm. But this was right when Born and Raised came out, John Mayer's album, and it was very kind of like California sound, almost like Laurel Canyon vibe. So my ears were tuned into him a little bit more. Anyways, so he joined us for a song during our opening set, and then he invited the band for the encore, which was with everybody. It was with John Mayer, Zach Brown, his band, and it was one of those moments that went so fast, yet it was in slow motion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you're looking around, you're like, how the hell am I standing right here right now? and the reason it was impactful for me is because it was that moment where it was like, whenever you're on stage, take it all in. It doesn't matter if there's 5 people listening at a noisy pub. It doesn't matter if it's a stage with 3,500 people watching. It doesn't matter who's on stage with you. Just take it all in and recognize it as one of the greatest opportunities that you have
That's
as
exactly what
a
it is.
musician. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it really registered that. Yeah, and like I said, I say the names because it really amped up the feeling for me. But I try and take that with me however I play, wherever I play, and that was very impactful to me from a kind of that empowering standpoint as a musician, as a performing musician.
I get that. Very cool. Very cool. Now, we have a question here from.
You are all prepared with your iPad and everything. I'm not surprised.
We have a question here from a mutual friend, the extraordinarily wonderful author, thinker, guitarist, and general badass, Mr. John Stubbings.
Awesome. Very cool.
Now, John wrote a beautiful book called The Devil Is In It, which is a love story for the acoustic guitar. And he sent me this morning, before I'd had any coffee, quite an involved, and in fact, I'm going to have to swipe through it a little bit, quite an involved question. So,
put my glasses on for this.
Yeah, I'm going to adjust mine. He says, and I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit. We all know it's the golden age of Lutherie. Okay, yeah, no argument there. It is.
For sure.
Absolutely right. Tony did a review of 5 sub $250 blues acoustics. Yes, you did. I enjoyed that. Including, did you do a Gretsch Jim Dandy as well?
The Gretsch Jim Dandy was,
Great
I think,
little guitar.
I think it was number 1, yeah.
Right. So John's got one of these. And he says that these, let's say, entry-level priced instruments that deliver far more performance than what you're actually paying for.
Yeah.
He's wondering if you'd agree that this has helped encourage another golden age, which is the golden age of online tuition.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually, there's quite a bit to unpack here, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think number one, I'm hoping, and I do get this, I do get this feeling. I do feel that the guitar as an instrument is far more accessible than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
And I say that in terms of procuring one, i.e. the lesser expensive instruments that punch way above their price range, which I'm very grateful for. I think very early on I could be accused of a little bit of snobbery, looking down my nose. It's let's just be truthful.
I get that a lot as well. Yeah. I do. You're going to find this difficult to believe, but people have sometimes said or asked me, "Are you a guitar snob?" And the honest answer is no, I'm not. I have found something to love in almost every instrument I've played.
So this brings up another interesting topic, and I'm going to come back to the question, but I think it's a detour worth taking. I get asked the question so much, why don't you ever give a negative review? And I have a pretty strong, staunch philosophy on this, in that I think every guitar that is made has a purpose for someone. While it might not be for me, I'd rather shed the light or shine the light on what a guitar is good at than knock it, because chances are somebody owns that and it's probably their favorite instrument. And who am I to judge that for them?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you start with a list of what it can't do, then you'll never stop. Be like, okay, well, this is a new Martin D35 and it sucks at shred metal. Yeah. You're like, oh, I see now. Yes, a 2 out of 10 is entirely justified.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We have so many more words for negative. We have so many more negative descriptors than we do positive. And a lot of times when we experience something that's truly positive, we can't find the words. And I think that's just I see a lot of, not to get on the super positive train, but what am I doing if I put out a negative review? That doesn't do anything. I don't want to be the negative guy. I want to shine the light on what a guitar is good at. I want to share with people, hey, if you're looking for a budget guitar and you want something that's really nice, this is for you. Now, no, if you're
That
looking
sounded like the start of one of your videos.
yeah,
It's like, am I on YouTube?
it
What the
just comes
hell?
out. But if you're looking at guitars that are well above that price range and those guitars don't interest you, that doesn't mean they're bad. They're just
Absolutely.
not for you, and that's totally fine. We can all get along, you know.
Well,
But
it's funny you should say that. Paul Waller, who is one of the main Martin guitars guys here in the UK, just said, you know, you can play it if you put a Floyd Rose on a D35, which is not the silliest thing I've heard today.
yeah, I've been watching some of those comments fly by, and
Oh, they've been wonderful.
some good stuff.
But we
Um,
digest. I'm sorry, I interrupted
yeah,
you.
no, I want to come back to the guitar being accessible, and I think it really has opened up not only the interest but the ability to execute. And you've got there's so many different online lessons. You've got YouTube lessons. You've got various. So many different YouTube teachers and so many people with their own online courses. It is just as it is the golden age for Luther. I do think it is the golden age for actually learning the guitar. I mean, you
Yes,
think
indeed.
back even to the 60s and 70s when people were putting on LPs and adjusting the speed and
Right.
manually moving the needle back,
Mm.
listening to it again, moving the needle back, listening to it again. I mean, now we have these amazing luxuries like there's a speed feature on YouTube. You could slow down anything you want. I mean, the opportunities for learning and acceleration within learning are so great. I mean, that's why you see, I think of the guitarist who's now much older, but Sung Young, who started at a very young
He
age.
was about 3.5 months, wasn't he?
Yeah,
When he first
maybe.
started taking it seriously, it was a hobby up
Yeah.
till then.
You took the words right out of my mouth. But really, it's opened up, and not just. I'm not talking about guitar. Really, anything. There's apps and things for anything. But I think also one of the interesting things with that, and I do feel very strongly about this, is with infinite choice comes almost decision paralysis,
Yes, indeed.
and that is something to be very very careful of because there will always be, especially now, there will always be another option. There will always be somebody to compare yourself to. There will
Absolutely.
always be somebody better. There will always be somebody just starting. And you will see that because everything is, for the most part, on display. That being the case, I think I think it brings up maybe a newer problem is this paradox of choice, this paralysis that results. I mean, as a guitar geek, I spent a lot of time signed up for every email and literally tried to look at every online lesson. And what it ends up feeling like is, gosh, there's so much, I'm never going to be good enough. That's a really bad feeling. So you
Yeah.
got to be careful with that. I mean, I think with all of the options that are present now, yes, it indeed is the golden age of learning, but that comes with the little caveat of you have to have the discipline to be able to focus. And that's a very tough
Absolutely.
thing to cultivate right now.
It is indeed. It is indeed. One thing, I mean, I do teach, but my students are a select group that I talk to online once a week, and they are coming specifically to learn what I have to offer. I'm
Sure.
not putting down some sort of course of a more generic thing. We're looking at pieces of music that I wrote and the techniques that I specifically use.
Right.
They're all adult learners, and obviously the main things that they struggle with, and this you will know better than me, are time management for practice and retention. What advice would
Mm-hmm.
you have for adult learners?
This is a great one, and I'll go back to one of the main things that we talk about within Tony's Acoustic Challenge, and one of the main things that I try and teach to really anybody who will listen is 10 minutes a day.
Right.
Now, I think the initial gut response is like, dude, 10
What am I going to
really
learn in 10
like
minutes?
10 minutes, like I can, okay, cool. Let's say I'm a new guitar player. It takes me 5 minutes to tune my guitar. By the time I get my guitar tuned, I got 5 minutes left. What the hell am I actually going to accomplish in 5 minutes? And it's really not about what you can accomplish in that 10-minute window. It's really about sitting down for a focused 10 minutes. 10 minutes is actually a really long time.
Oh
If
yeah.
you set a timer next time you practice, or set a timer for 10 minutes, and really focus, not get distracted, you'll be amazed at how long that actually feels,
Oh,
working on one
it's all
thing for 10
relative, isn't
minutes.
it? Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes without oxygen,
Yeah, yeah.
so
It's, yeah. I mean, and more importantly, that 10 minutes acts as a launching pad for two really
mm,
specific reasons. Number one, if you commit to the 10 minutes and you accomplish that 10 minutes, that's a really good feather in your cap for the day. You've set out to do what you set out to do. You've accomplished it. And if you put the guitar away after 10 minutes, great. At least you accomplished it. At least you said, I'm going to do this, and you followed through. That feels really good. It feels really good no
absolutely.
matter what, whether it's guitar, fitness, you name it, reading, doesn't matter. But I feel what happens is the 10 minutes really acts as a launching pad in that you start to get in this zone. And whether or not you continue to work on what you started to work on, that 10 minutes is your kind of gateway into
Mm,
a practice session.
absolutely.
You know, it's much different to say, yeah, I'm going to practice for an hour a day. Yeah, for some that's more realistic than others, but if you can't achieve that, there's this negativity surrounding the guitar.
Mm,
If you flip it and say, I'm gonna stick to practicing 10 minutes a day, and it goes longer, well, cool, you get it's a double win.
absolutely.
You've done what you set out to do, but you also, well, you practice longer, so bonus.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I suffer from the same thing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm getting ready, obviously it's not happened this year. Um, I was getting ready for the Holy Grail guitar show in Berlin. I
Sure.
was there to demonstrate beautiful instruments by Rory Dowling of Taran Guitars, Rosie Heidenrich of Turnstone, Jason Costall, obviously,
Sure.
and just a mad archtop that I'm collaborating on with Cherry Andre out in Canada.
Nice.
And so I'd set myself, I've got this project management software because I think I find it very difficult to put structure to my day unless I actively impose it.
Sure.
I don't think I'm alone in that. So I set down, all these blocks of my day with a clear aim for that particular session. And that's not always easy because the guitar, as we've already said, is such a seductive instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you start noodling around, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that sounds nice. And then you find something else, and you're like, oh, that sounds good. And you're like, oh, I wonder, there's this bit of a thing that I was sort of playing around with. And on your screen, it's saying 15 minutes right hand expression. And your brain's just going, no,
Yeah.
not today. Today it's noodling time.
Yeah, and the thing with the guitar is you said it's so seductive, you can justify it because it's like,
Of
well, it
course you can.
sounds good. The
Yeah,
the the response I'm hearing is that it sounds great. So why don't I just keep doing what I'm doing?
exactly. And that is seductive. But like most things in life, taking it just a little further will yield results, and it will get you over a hill from which you can see another mountain, and then you
Mhm.
just keep climbing. You keep climbing. Um, what are you playing at the moment? Hey, was this Bourgeois you've got going
Yeah, so our mutual friend Matt Cholka at Eddie's
on?
Guitars in St.
Terrible man.
Louis. Yeah,
Terrible man.
he's a professional arm twister, is what he is. No,
Did you shave him?
no, I was appalled. I was appalled, and I felt like I lost a brother when he shaved his majestic beard. No,
It was
but it's
quite
already
some
grown
beard.
back. It's pretty much as long as mine already. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
by about lunchtime, I imagine. Matt, you are a legend. We love you.
Yeah. No, but so yeah, the guitar I'm playing is my chords hanging all over the place. It's a Bourgeois
Ooh.
custom OMSC, and this was a result. So Matt came out here for the Acoustic Live Festival in 2018, just
Mm.
last yeah, I guess it would be 2 years ago now. Wow, time really does fly. And I played his was mahogany back in size. I
Oh,
can't remember
he's
the
got
top.
that beautiful sort of striped mahogany. It was like a bee's wing or something on the back.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
I don't know specifically what it was, but it did have this wonderful subtle figure, this kind of wavy
Mm.
figure that was just extremely eye-catching, but it sounded amazing. And I played his guitar, and I he left, and then it was one of those things that stuck with me personally.
Right.
So I had, very foolishly called him, and right there it was over. It was game over. because I'm like, hey, what do you have in stock that's similar to your guitar? And then
Mm.
he said the words that really determined my fate. He's like, well, did you ever think about just designing a custom? Now, here's an interesting
There's a
thing
slippery
because
slope
yeah,
for you.
because when he initially asked me that, yeah, of course, I've worked at guitar stores since 2000. I want to say 2005. So I have, I felt and was confident in designing custom instruments,
Hmm.
not for me, for
No,
what
for
I
other
think
people. Yeah,
for other
exactly.
people. Yeah. So this was a very different ball game because I was
Mm.
all of a sudden putting down on paper what I thought would sound awesome. But nonetheless, Matt and I went back and forth with the folks at Bourgeois. So cheers to James and Dana and that whole crew.
Oh, what
And
lovely guys.
I am,
And it's an amazing place. It really is.
I just felt so attended to. And it's
Mm.
funny because even being experienced around guitars, I still wanted that attention. I still
Of
really
course.
wanted to
Of
feel taken
course.
care
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Hmm.
So we got a torrefied Italian spruce top, master grade
Mm.
cocobolo on the back and sides.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, really beautiful piece.
That's very
And
naughty.
cocobolo binding throughout, really understated.
Mm.
No position markers,
Mm.
bone pins, bone saddle, obviously bone nut, inch and three quarter. And what I love about it is it meets the body at the 12th fret, so that bridge plate is sitting a little bit deeper in the lower bout, and it reacts to alternate tuning. So it's got this blossom that I didn't really expect. When I was
Mm.
talking about it with Matt, I said, let's do something. I'm not afraid of overtones. I really would welcome some really beautiful musical overtones, and they really delivered. And I got to say, I've had the guitar for roughly 2-ish years, and it just keeps getting better.
Oh,
It's
it
an
would do.
addictive instrument. It really is.
That's what you want. You want the
Yeah,
sort of
for
instrument that
sure.
you just can't walk past when it's on
Yeah,
the stand. And that's I know what you mean about the 12th fret. Obviously, this is boom.
yeah, yeah,
That's where it's at, right
yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yeah, and I know what you mean about nice woods as well. Obviously, my other guitar from Jason is in the tree, so it's spectacular, but it's not subtle
Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. This is, I hope you can see that, that's quilted bird's eye maple
Oh,
on
that's
the back and
gorgeous.
sides, which started as a joke because Jason was like, what do you want me to make the back and sides out of? I was like, well, quilted bird's eye maple, find some.
Yeah.
And then I think it was at Woodstock. He called me, I FaceTime me. He was like, "There's two sets. One of them's yours." I was like, oh, you're kidding! It exists. But yeah, I mean the 12 fret cutaway design, I think is the gentleman's choice. Um, there's something about. I mean, this is a tiny modified dreadnought. It's not an OM.
Right.
So it's deeper and it's got that very much sort of squared off shoulder
Yeah.
and the sort of slightly pinched waist and the squared off lower bout as well. You're absolutely right when it comes to the 12 fret body joint. And I think what a lot of people, when they first try one, they're like, oh, that's complex and it's wonderful and that's good. But there's more to it than that because when the bridge is in the sweet spot, it's further away from the sound hole, and you do have to play a little harder in order to excite the top. And
Yeah.
it's infinitesimal, really like nuanced, but it does bring out more textures and colors in
Hmm.
your playing. Then there's the fact that they look are just amazing,
Yeah.
and and obviously my position markers glow in the dark. Um,
I was going to say that was the one thing that I had to really adjust to.
right.
Having a cutaway on a 12th fret, visually, I would think I was on a certain fret and I'd look down and I'd hear it and I'd be like, what the hell happened? Everything's
Hmm.
changed. The whole geography is a little
Oh,
different.
I get that, and after playing this guitar for a couple of years, almost exclusively, because this is my signature model. It was designed by Jason for me, and it
Yeah.
fits like a bespoke suit. It is just
Yeah.
mwah. Um,
You would have more experience in suits than I would. But I'll take your word for
So it's uh, it's funny going back to a 14 fret neck. I mean, I started on classical guitar, so 12 frets to the octave. That sort of made sense. And one of my heroes was a guy called Isaac Guillory, and he played a 12 fret Martin. It was a D35S from 1969, and he said, if you can't do it on a 12 fretter, maybe rethink. It was like Eddie Van Halen saying, if you can't plug straight into the amp in your underpants, then you should be doing a different job. Um, I found myself on a 14 fret instrument for the first time in a couple of years. It was in Berlin, once again, the Holy Grail Show 2018. I was playing for Leonardo Buendia, who's currently at the Smodgy workshop in Oakland, California. Leo is from Argentina, just a preternaturally talented human being, and he makes guitars that literally snuggle up to you and whisper seductive things. and you've got to kind of strap yourself to the mast, like Odysseus, and shove wax in your ears and go, no, get back, you temptress. And he handed me this extraordinary modified dreadnought in the tree and German spruce. And I went on stage and I did this mini concert. And for those of you who haven't been to a mini concert at a guitar show, you've basically got 15 minutes to prove that the guitar is amazing, that you've got the chops to play it and be there, but it's a delicate balance.
Sure.
Because you can't just go blazing up and down the fretboard and everyone's like, I couldn't really hear the guitar much. You were too busy going.
Yeah.
It was like, it was so good. So Leo gave me this thing and I walked on stage and I was like, hello, everybody. And I kid you not, the neck just seemed to snake off into the distance. And I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm in genuine danger here. And sure enough, halfway through the first piece, I actually fell off the thing. I was like, well, you know what? I'm really sorry. I've been playing a 12 fret for a while. It's always good to start a gig with, or a show of any kind with a sincere apology to your audience, I found. I was like, I've been playing a 12 for ages. I'm on a 14. You'll get what you're given. The guitar's amazing. Let's just listen to this A. You know it's fantastic. I know it's fantastic. Anything else is a bonus. And I mean, it's funny. You do have to just sort of tune into it. It takes a little while. It's like, for me, it's like going from English to Spanish or from Spanish to Greek. I'm just a little bit whoa for a little bit, and then I'm okay. One thing I did realize, and this is a 12 fret cutaway, so this idea I guess goes back to Eric Schoenberg, really, the Tiburon guys, the soloist model, really. And I was very pleased with myself. I was like, I need a cutaway for all the intensely sensitive stuff I do here, that mark me as a unique artist. And then I was restringing, and I noticed, how you get these little paw prints at the fretboard? Yeah. There was nothing past the 12. At all.
You know what? I have to be brutally honest. I am so relieved to hear that, because I had about the same exact thought process.
Really?
I'm like, oh, this will give me access. I'll be able to pull these beautiful little passages out.
Mm-hmm.
But the passages don't exist. I have not found them.
They'll be on there somewhere. I promise you. They will be on there somewhere.
I can get to them if I need to.
This is good. Because imagine if you couldn't. Imagine just knowing that they were just a little bit out of reach. That would be heartbreaking. It really would. Right. Listen, Tony, Instagram only gives us an hour for these. Yeah. And it has flown by.
It absolutely really has.
So one last question.
Sure.
Can we do this again?
I would absolutely love to. I feel like we've got a good 6 to 7 hours in us.
Oh, easily.
I have to say a huge thank you, Michael, for reaching out and setting this up. This has been like I said, I woke up feeling like it was Christmas morning. I was looking for the tree. I was looking for the presents. To be able to talk to you, I've always admired your wealth of knowledge
Thank you.
in the acoustic guitar realm. Not to mention that, but also your your way of conveying sound verbally.
I
Seriously,
try.
I think at one point I was like, maybe I could just hire Michael to read spec sheets for me, like right before bed, to
I'd
just
do
get me in
that.
that nice state. Yeah,
Well, like the Santa Cruz catalog from about
yeah,
1994.
yeah.
This is the F
But
model.
yeah, I thoroughly have enjoyed our discussion. I know there's a lot of ground to cover still, so I would absolutely 100% be honored and delighted to do this again.
Well, let us do that. For my part, obviously I absolutely love everything that you've done, all going all the way back, all the way back. And
Oh,
it's all the way back to before the beard. Um,
those were dark. Those were dark times. No, that was it was great. I enjoyed it all.
So yes, we must do this again. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you to everybody who's joined us.
Likewise, yeah.
Obviously, we will put out a shout when it's time for the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, what can I say, Mr. Tony Polecastro? What a joy.
Oh man, cheers, cheers, Michael. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself, my friend. Goodbye, everybody.